The unsolved case of Martin Dickhoff. The disappearance of Martin Dickhoff remains one of the most perplexing missing person cases in recent history. The 44-year-old Dutch man seemingly vanished without a trace after a short trip to Belgium, leaving behind only a series of baffling clues. Despite extensive investigations by both Dutch and Belgian authorities, no definitive answers have emerged, making his case an enduring mystery. Martin was a well-respected man in his community, living in Alphen aan den Rijn for 25 years and running a successful tiling business. By all accounts, he had no debts, no known enemies, and maintained a close relationship with his family. On January 23, 2014, he decided to take a brief trip to the Belgian coastal city of Ostend, where he checked into the Andromeda Hotel at 11:15 in the evening. After checking in, he made his way to the Casino Kursaal. Surveillance footage captured him leaving the casino at 12:30, appearing restless and spending more time on his phone than playing the games. The next few hours are crucial in piecing together Martin's movements. Although the surrounding area's cameras failed to track his whereabouts, he eventually returned to the hotel. At 4 in the morning, his van was seen exiting the underground parking garage. Strangely, he never officially checked out. His last confirmed sighting was at 4:52 in the morning at an Esso gas station in Drongen, Belgium, where he filled up his tank and bought a coffee. Security footage showed him alone and acting normally. After this, he drove away, and his movements became increasingly erratic. Concern grew when Martin failed to return home, and his family reported him missing on January 25th. Upon retracing his steps, investigators discovered that before his final casino visit, he had briefly returned to the Netherlands, stopping at a gas station in Gouda and later buying coffee at McDonald's. He then inexplicably drove back to Belgium, making it his second trip to the casino that night. This unusual behavior puzzled investigators. Through his vehicle's onboard computer and cell phone data, police were able to reconstruct his final journey. After leaving Ostend, he initially headed toward Rotterdam, stopping in Drongen for coffee. From there, he turned north toward Antwerp before abruptly switching off his phone near Wandelgem at 5:16 in the morning. However, his van was still traceable, seen heading toward the Dutch border near Zelzate before unexpectedly turning back into Belgium. After this, there were no further traces of Martin or his vehicle. It wasn't until February 26th that Belgian police found Martin's black Volkswagen transporter van in a parking lot near a Fastned charging station in Alta, 45 kilometers from Ostend. Oddly, this was a charging station for electric vehicles, yet Martin's van was not electric. The vehicle had been sitting there since 6 in the morning on January 24th, just minutes after his last confirmed movement. A parking ticket had been placed on the windshield, meaning local authorities had noticed the van, but had no reason to investigate until Martin was reported missing. Inside the van, investigators found no signs of Martin. His wallet, phone, passport, and keys were missing, yet a small suitcase was discovered. Inside were his clothes, neatly folded. The scene presented an eerie sense of organization, as if he had carefully prepared to leave behind his belongings before disappearing. Police reached out to vendors at a nearby weekly market, hoping someone might have seen him, but no one recalled anything unusual. They also searched nearby hotels and questioned other drivers at the charging station, but once again, no new leads emerged. Authorities have since proposed 2 main theories. The first suggests that Martin took his own life, deliberately ensuring he would never be found. This theory, however, is challenged by the fact that he showed no prior signs of distress, and his trip to the casino seemed spontaneous rather than premeditated. The second theory speculates that he may have been the victim of foul play, potentially related to gambling debts or an encounter on the road. However, there is no evidence of debts or a violent altercation. As time passes, Martin's disappearance continues to confound investigators and his loved ones. With no conclusive evidence pointing to what truly happened, his fate remains unknown. His case stands as an unsettling mystery, leaving more questions than answers. The mysterious case of Wesley Dale Morgan. The disappearance of Wesley Dale Morgan remains one of the most perplexing and heartbreaking mysteries in Louisiana's history. On May 15, 2001, the 2-year-old vanished from his home in Clinton, Louisiana without a trace. His mother, Ruby Renee Havard was just 19 at the time, and her boyfriend, 37-year-old Burnell Hilton Jr., also lived in the home. According to Ruby, she left Wesley playing with puppies on the front porch while she went inside to prepare pickled eggs. When she returned just minutes later, her son was gone. That morning would mark the beginning of a decades-long search that has yielded no answers. Authorities immediately launched an extensive search for Wesley, covering a 5-mile radius around the home. Local firemen, corrections officers, neighboring parish officials, and the FBI joined in the search, scouring the dense Louisiana woods for any sign of the missing boy. Despite their best efforts, no evidence surfaced to explain what had happened. There were no footprints, no signs of struggle, and no clues that could lead investigators in a definitive direction. Suspicion quickly fell on Wesley's mother and her boyfriend. Both failed polygraph tests, raising questions about their involvement. Investigators began considering the possibility that Wesley had not simply wandered off, but had instead been taken, possibly by someone close to him. A troubling theory emerged, suggesting that Ruby may have given her son away or even sold him. This theory gained traction when, in 2008, Ruby was arrested for allegedly trying to sell her unborn child for $2,000. Though the charges were ultimately dropped due to a lack of evidence, it cast a long shadow over her role in Wesley's disappearance. In 2012, retired Baton Rouge police officer Richard K. Sobers took an interest in Wesley's case. Frustrated by the lack of progress, he persuaded the FBI to display age-progressed photos of Wesley on digital billboards throughout Louisiana and Mississippi. He also organized community outreach efforts, distributing flyers and attempting to hold a vigil in Wesley's honor. However, some members of Wesley's family were resistant to the renewed attention, complicating efforts to keep his case in the public eye. 15 years after Wesley vanished, in 2016, the FBI's New Orleans and Baton Rouge divisions launched a rapid deployment team to reinvestigate the case. The reopening of the investigation brought renewed hope, but also painful memories for Ruby, according to her attorney Rhonda Covington. The fact that this special A-team is here gives her hope, although it also brings up a lot of memories. A dedicated tip line was established, and the FBI announced a $10,000 reward for any information leading to Wesley's whereabouts. Age-progressed images of him at ages 12 and 15 were widely distributed, but no significant leads materialized. Despite these efforts, Wesley's case remains unsolved, and his fate remains a haunting mystery. His aunt, Mary Dufour, has spoken about the lasting impact of his disappearance on the family, particularly on his father, Dewey Morgan, who shared custody of Wesley at the time. Dewey has since remarried and had other children, but the pain of losing Wesley has never faded. Sheriff Travis said that the problem they have with the case is that they don't know if Wesley is alive or not. There's been no closure for anybody in this particular case. Ruby has since built a new life in Louisiana with her husband and 2 daughters, but she maintains her innocence and continues to hope that she will one day be reunited with Wesley. While tensions remain between different sides of the family, they all share a common goal: finding out what happened to Wesley and bringing him home. Despite the years that have passed, Wesley's case is still open, and the FBI continues to offer a $10,000 reward for information. His disappearance remains a mystery, leaving a family searching for answers and a community hoping for a resolution that has been long overdue.
They're called crop circles, huge geometrically perfect shapes that literally appear overnight carved right out of farmers' fields. Some believe they're UFO landing pads. Others think they might be some sort of cosmic road sign. And, of course, many people just think they are hoaxes.
Recently, the story of these crop circles took a dramatic turn. For the first time, physical evidence of their creation may have been discovered.
The mystery intensified when metal detector tests of the crop circles uncovered 3 unusual metal plates. Each plate contained an image of the crop circle pictograph, exactly the same design that had been carved on the wheat fields. German historian Moschkotte Litfas helped analyze these metal plates that were found to be made of precious metals, bronze, silver, and gold.
Mysterious plates found underneath crop circle. In 1991, an unusual crop circle appeared in a field in Grasdorf, Germany, capturing the attention of researchers and the public. The formation displayed an intricate design, resembling many of the mysterious crop circles that had been reported across the world. What made this case particularly extraordinary, however, was what was discovered beneath the soil. Unlike other crop circles that left only flattened crops and speculation, this one led to the unearthing of something far more tangible. Curious about the origins of the formation, researchers brought metal detectors to the site, hoping to detect any anomalies beneath the ground. To their surprise, the equipment picked up strong and inexplicable signals from various points within the formation. Excited by their findings, they decided to dig in specific locations where the readings were strongest. What they discovered defied conventional explanation. 3 metallic plates buried beneath the crop circle. The 3 plates, made of silver, gold, and bronze, weighed a total of 7 kilograms. Upon further analysis, it was determined that the purity of these metals was nearly 100%, an unusual characteristic for ancient artifacts. Even more astonishing was the fact that the designs engraved on the plates perfectly matched the crop circle formation found above them. This striking coincidence led to speculation that the plates were somehow linked to the crop circle, as if the formation had been placed above them as a form of marker or message. Experts attempted to determine the age of the plates, and estimates suggested they could be several thousand years old. However, their true origins and purpose remain unknown. Some theorists speculated that they were ancient relics of an advanced civilization, while others suggested extraterrestrial involvement, pointing to the strange and precise nature of the crop circle. The idea that the plates could have been buried intentionally long ago, only to be revealed by a crop formation centuries later, added to the mystery. Despite the significance of the discovery, the story of the Grasdorf crop circle and the buried plates quickly faded from public attention. There were no major follow-ups in mainstream media, and it seemed as though the story was deliberately buried. Researchers argue that the discovery was covered up, possibly because it challenged established historical narratives or raised too many unanswerable questions. To this day, the Grasdorf incident remains a mystery. The crop circle itself, the buried plates, and their mysterious connection suggest an event that defies conventional explanation. Whether the plates were left by an ancient civilization, extraterrestrial visitors, or served as part of a lost ritual remains unknown. What is certain, however, is that the Grasdorf crop circle stands as one of the most intriguing and least-known mysteries in modern history. The Beast of 7 Shoots. The mystery of the Beast of 7 Shoots began on June 1, 2005, when a man was taking photographs of the picturesque landscape in 7 Shoots, Canada. At the time, he did not notice anything unusual. However, when he reviewed his photographs later at home, he discovered something that sent chills down his spine. One of the images appeared to contain a dark, humanoid figure lurking among the trees. The creature captured in the photograph has since sparked intense debate among researchers and enthusiasts. Some believe it to be a Sasquatch, others argue that it resembles a dogman, and still others suggest it could be a Gugwe, a lesser-known creature with bear-like features and an elongated snout. The problem with identifying the creature is that the definitions and classifications remain unclear. No scientific consensus exists on their existence, much less their differences. The Beast of 7 Shoots, as it has come to be known, is a mystery wrapped in speculation. What makes the photograph even more intriguing is the creature's appearance. It has broad shoulders, a defined sagittal crest on its head, and what appears to be a snout-like protrusion. These features are often associated with reported Sasquatch sightings, but the pronounced muzzle-like face is also consistent with descriptions of dogman encounters. Its dark, shaggy fur blends into the shadows of the dense forest, making it difficult to determine exact details. An even more bizarre element in the photograph is that the creature appears to be holding an animal, possibly a dog. Some researchers claim that it is clutching a small poodle, and this theory gains traction due to an eerie coincidence. A local woman's poodle had gone missing just a day before the photograph was taken. If the creature in the image is indeed holding a dog, it raises even more questions. Despite the clarity of the image, the Beast of 7 Shoots remains unexplained. Skeptics argue that the figure in the photograph could be nothing more than an illusion created by shadows and tree formations, but others insist that the details are too distinct for it to be a simple case of pareidolia. Without further evidence, such as additional sightings or forensic analysis of the photograph, the truth remains elusive. Over the years, the story of the Beast of Seven Chutes has become one of the more compelling mysteries in Canada. It stands as an example of how, even in the modern age, the wilderness still holds secrets beyond human understanding. Whether the creature was a trick of the light, the mystery remains unsolved. The mysterious case of Tamra Keepness. The disappearance of Tamra Keepness remains one of Canada's most haunting mysteries. Born on September 1, 1998, Tamra was a young girl from the White Bear First Nation in Saskatchewan. She had a twin sister, Tanis, and was part of a large family that included her older siblings, Summer and Rain, as well as 3 younger siblings. At the time of her disappearance, Tamra lived with her mother, Lorena Keepness, her stepfather, Dean MacArthur, and her siblings in a home on Ottawa Street in Regina. The neighbourhood was known for high crime rates, struggling with issues such as substance use, poverty, and violence. The home was located just minutes away from a halfway house for felons and a Salvation Army shelter that housed people facing addiction and homelessness. Tamra's family was well known to Saskatchewan's welfare services. Since the birth of the oldest child, Summer, in 1993, more than 50 reports had been made regarding neglect, alcohol use, and violence within the home. Due to these concerns, Tamra and her siblings had spent periods living with their father, Troy Keepness, or their maternal grandmother. In early 2004, just months before Tamra vanished, the children returned to live with their mother when Troy could no longer care for them. Around the same time, Dean MacArthur was released from jail after serving time for assaulting Lorena. The night before Tamra disappeared on July 5, 2004, the home was chaotic. Lorena and Dean had an argument, leading Dean to leave the house and meet up with his friend, Russell Sheepskin. Russell, who occasionally lived with the family and babysat the children, accompanied Dean to a nearby 7-Eleven to buy milk for the baby. After dropping it off, the 2 men went to a bar. Meanwhile, Lorena was at home with the children. At around 8:30 in the evening, the kids began settling in for the night. Tamra went to bed in the upstairs bedroom she shared with her brothers, Rain, and their 4-year-old sibling. At some point during the evening, Lorena decided to leave the house. She put Summer, the eldest child, in charge and went to a friend's townhouse. She later returned briefly to inform Summer that she would be staying at the townhouse longer and left a phone number where she could be reached. She claimed to have called Summer around midnight to check in. The next morning, Tamra was gone. The first indication that something was wrong came at breakfast time. Tamra had not come downstairs. Her grandmother, Lois Shepherd, arrived at the home and soon realized that Tamra was missing. Family members searched the neighborhood, checking with friends, relatives, and nearby playgrounds, but she was nowhere to be found. At 12:16, police were contacted, launching a massive investigation. Tamra's disappearance became national news, sparking an intensive search that spanned the entire province. Authorities received over 2,000 tips, but none led to her whereabouts. Police searched homes, parks, and wooded areas, but Tamra had vanished without a trace. 2 weeks later, on July 19th, Dean MacArthur was arrested and charged with assaulting Russell on the night of Tamra's disappearance. Shortly afterward, on July 21st, welfare services removed Tamra's siblings from Lorena's custody, and they were never returned. Over the years, theories have surfaced regarding Tamra's fate. Some speculate that she wandered out of the house and fell victim to a perpetrator. Others believe that someone within the home may have been involved. However, with conflicting stories about that night and no concrete evidence, no one has ever been charged. Adding to the mystery, key figures in the case have since passed away, including Russell Sheepskin, who died on New Year's Day in 2009. Despite the passage of time, Tamra's family has never given up hope. In October 2022, her case was featured in 2 episodes of the documentary series Never Seen Again, which explores the stories of missing persons. The series gave her family the opportunity to share their pain and plea for answers. Lorena, who lost all of her children to the child welfare system, still holds on to the few photographs of Tamra that remain, as many of her possessions were discarded over the years. Nearly 2 decades later, Tamra Keepness is still missing. Her case remains unsolved, leaving her family and community with unanswered questions and a lingering sense of loss. The unsolved case of the Gill family. The disappearance of the Gill family remains one of Argentina's most baffling unsolved mysteries. On January 13, 2002, 6 members of the Gill family vanished without a trace from their home in the Entre Rios province. To this day, no definitive evidence has surfaced to explain what happened to them, despite numerous searches and investigations spanning decades. The case has been riddled with conflicting reports, strange clues, and frustrating dead ends. The night before their disappearance, the Gill family visited a friend named Maximo Vega in the nearby town of Viale. This was the last confirmed sighting of them. In April 2002, a man named Goethe, who had been left in charge of their property, contacted the family's relatives, stating that they had not returned from a 3-month vacation that began in January. This revelation set off a widespread investigation into their whereabouts. Investigators discovered that calls had been made from Ruben Gill's cell phone on January 13th to an unidentified woman in Rosario. The phone remained active until April 2003, 15 months after the disappearance. Additionally, a neighbor claimed to have seen Ruben riding a horse on January 14th, further complicating the timeline. Despite these leads, there was no solid evidence indicating where the family had gone or what had happened to them. Luisa Eva Gill, Ruben's sister, reported the family missing to the police, but initial investigations yielded few results. By 2003, Judge Jorge Sebastian Galino ordered a more in-depth inquiry, but no neighbors or relatives could provide any useful information. Authorities found it unlikely that the family had left on their own, as they had no vehicle, and Margarita had not received her most recent paycheck from the school where she worked. In 2006, a new theory emerged, suggesting police officers may have been involved in their disappearance. These officers had also worked on cases involving 2 other missing men, accountant Amado Abib and architect Mario Zapeño. However, this lead was never thoroughly investigated, leaving another potential avenue unexplored. In 2008, a breakthrough seemed imminent when authorities conducted a raid on the family's home, known as La Candelaria Estancia. Using luminol, they discovered traces of blood, though the samples were too contaminated to confirm a genetic match to the Gills. They also noted the presence of flies associated with decomposing bodies, but searches for human remains turned up nothing. That same year, forensic psychologists ruled out any psychological or religious motives for the family's disappearance. They described Ruben as a happy and sociable man, though some witnesses claimed he had seemed troubled in the days leading up to the incident. Over the years, searches extended beyond Argentina into Paraguay and Brazil, but none led to any conclusive findings. Various theories emerged, including the possibility of a forced disappearance, a dispute with a landowner, or a personal conflict. However, there were no official records of the family in labor, immigration, or social security databases after 2002. In 2010, their names appeared in a registry for benefits, but this was later deemed a clerical error. In 2015, a renewed effort was launched under Judge Gustavo Acosta and prosecutor Federico Uriburu. Investigators examined leads in the town of Portena, where a rural workers' community had formed, but they found no trace of the Gills. A drone was used to survey La Candelaria Estancia, searching for signs of disturbed soil. Investigators also attempted to compare current aerial photographs with historical images from 2002, hoping to find differences in the landscape that might indicate burial sites. In February 2018, another search was conducted based on a tip from rural contractor Armando Nani. He recalled seeing Ruben visibly upset about digging wells just days before his disappearance. Authorities inspected a water well, but only animal bones were found. They also identified a nearby stream with signs of artificial alterations, which they planned to investigate further once funding was approved. Additionally, Ruben's brother and Margarita's mother urged authorities to examine the basement of the estancia, suspecting it had been covered up and built over. Despite decades of searches and countless theories, The disappearance of the Gill family remains an open case. Their sudden vanishing, combined with strange clues and the absence of any conclusive evidence, continues to fuel speculation. The mystery of Laurel Sue Lotka. The disappearance of Laurel Sue Lotka remains one of Washington State's most perplexing mysteries. Born in Kamloops, British Columbia, Canada, on June 27, 1957, Laurel vanished in Seattle under circumstances that have left investigators and her loved ones without answers for nearly 5 decades. Official records do not specify an exact date of her disappearance, though many databases list January 1, 1975, as the last known contact. Laurel was reportedly last seen leaving her home to attend a doctor's appointment. While she was supposed to take the bus, she was known to hitchhike frequently, and it is suspected she may have done so that day instead. However, she never arrived at the doctor's office and was never heard from again. Adding to the mystery, in 1978, Laurel's wallet was discovered at Blewett Pass in the Wenatchee National Forest, Washington. The details of how and by whom the wallet was found remain unclear, and there are no known newspaper reports from the time discussing this discovery. With little media coverage and minimal investigative updates over the years, her case has largely remained in obscurity. There is some speculation regarding the reason for Laurel's doctor's visit. While it could have been a routine checkup, some believe it may have been a postpartum examination, as she had given birth within the previous year. However, no publicly available sources provide information about the clinic she was supposed to visit, nor the name of the doctor. This missing context leaves a crucial gap in understanding her final known movements. Laurel was described as being 5 feet 3 inches tall and weighing approximately 120 pounds. She had brown hair and brown eyes, and her hair was typically styled in a middle part, reaching just past her shoulders. The Washington State Missing Persons Database indicates that she had some form of scars, marks, or tattoos, but details are not specified. Her case is classified as missing, though the circumstances surrounding her disappearance are unclear. A deeper look into Laurel's background reveals that she was married at the time of her disappearance. On January 2, 1974, at just 16 years old, she applied for a marriage license with Stephen Dewey Lotka, an 18-year-old cook from Seattle. Since she was a minor, her mother, Sophie Davis, had to provide consent. The marriage was officiated in King County on February 2, 1974, with Stephen's relatives, Francis and Katrina Lotka, serving as witnesses. At some point after their marriage, Laurel resided in Seattle. She and Stephen had 1 child together. By 1976, Stephen had filed for divorce, with records showing that the petition was processed in Mason County, Washington. The divorce was finalized on December 22, 1977. Interestingly, at the time of filing, Laurel's address was listed as Place in White Center, King County. The record also indicates that Stephen's attorney did not have complete information about Laurel's background, as her county of residence and date of birth were initially marked as unknown before being corrected. Despite these legal records, there is no indication that Laurel resurfaced after her disappearance. Her former husband, Stephen, was later arrested in 1979 in Clark County for forgery-related charges, pleading guilty to 2 counts by the end of that year. However, there is no known connection between his legal troubles and Laurel's vanishing. The investigation into Laurel's case has faced several challenges. Few leads have emerged, and much of the available information is fragmented. The King County Sheriff's Office continues to investigate, and her DNA is available for comparison with unidentified remains. Despite this, her case has received minimal public attention. Efforts have been made to identify Laurel among unidentified individuals across the country. According to the National Missing and Unidentified Persons System, there are at least 13 exclusions where her DNA has been compared to various unidentified remains, with cases spanning multiple states, including Washington, Ohio, Tennessee, Texas, and Virginia. However, none of these comparisons have led to a match. Laurel's case is further complicated by inconsistencies in the records regarding her birth date. The Charlie Project and Doe Network list her date of birth as June 22, 1955, but records found on Ancestry suggest she was actually born on June 27, 1957. If the latter is accurate, she would have been 17 years old at the time of her disappearance, rather than 19. Although Laurel was born in Canada, sources indicate she was of indigenous heritage. Some databases classify her as Native American. Given her birthplace, she may have been considered First Nations rather than Native American, though details regarding her specific tribal affiliation remain unknown. Despite ongoing efforts, Laurel remains missing over 50 years later. The lack of media coverage, concrete leads, and investigative breakthroughs has kept her case largely in the shadows. The discovery of her wallet in 1978 suggests that something happened to her after she left for her doctor's appointment, but without additional evidence, her fate remains a mystery. Investigators continue to seek information that could provide answers about what happened to Laurel, hoping that one day her family may find the closure they have long sought. The mystery of Rebecca Reusch. The disappearance of Rebecca Reusch remains one of Germany's most baffling and widely covered missing person cases. The 15-year-old girl vanished without a trace on February 18, 2019 from Berlin, sparking an extensive police investigation and public speculation. Despite years of searching, no body has been found, yet authorities strongly suspect that she was silenced. Rebecca spent the evening of February 17, 2019, at the home of her eldest sister, who lived in the Britz district of Berlin with her husband and their daughter. That night, the sister's husband was attending a party with his colleagues, leaving Rebecca and her sister alone in the house. Rebecca had planned to sleep on the couch and go directly to school the next morning, as her classes had a delayed start that day. Her brother-in-law returned home from the party at approximately 5:45 in the morning and went to bed. At 7 in the morning, Rebecca's sister left for work with her daughter, leaving only Rebecca and her brother-in-law in the house. Shortly after, at 7:15 in the morning, Rebecca's mother attempted to call her but was sent straight to voicemail. Digital analysis of Rebecca's phone later revealed that it last connected to the home Wi-Fi at 7:46 a.m. At 8:25 a.m., her mother tried to call her again but, once more, reached voicemail. At some point between 7 and 7:46 in the morning, Rebecca sent a Snapchat message to a friend. Since Snapchat messages disappear after they are viewed, the exact time of the photo is unknown. Her friend opened the message at 8:15 in the morning and later described it as showing Rebecca standing in a hallway, dressed in a hoodie, along with a pink plush jacket, ripped jeans, and black and white trainers. This was the last confirmed contact from Rebecca. When Rebecca failed to arrive at school by 9:40 and did not return home that afternoon, her family reported her missing. Several of her belongings also disappeared, including the clothes she was seen wearing in the Snapchat message, her Vans backpack, pink handbag, purse, and her mobile phone. Additionally, a purple blanket from her sister's home was missing, which would later become a point of interest in the investigation. The police investigation soon focused on Rebecca's brother-in-law. Authorities found it significant that Rebecca's phone last connected to Wi-Fi while only he was in the house. Despite initially claiming to have been asleep that morning, digital forensic evidence showed that he had been awake and searching for pornographic material related to bondage and strangulation. Another crucial piece of evidence was the use of his raspberry red Renault Twingo on the morning of February 18th. According to traffic cameras and mobile data, the car was driven on the A12 motorway between Berlin and Poland at around 10:47 in the morning, well after Rebecca had disappeared. The car made a second trip on the same highway later that evening. Police have never been able to establish a legitimate reason for these journeys. In addition, a witness reported seeing a similar vehicle parked in a wooded area near Kummersdorf on the same day. 2 horseback riders also described seeing a man acting suspiciously in the same location around midday. Authorities conducted a search of the area, but no significant evidence was recovered. In 2020, German authorities submitted a request to Google for stored data related to Rebecca and her brother-in-law. The information was delivered in early 2021, but the details have not been disclosed to the public. In April 2023, police conducted another search of the suspect's home, performing acoustic tests and looking for objects that could be linked to strangulation. However, no arrests or new breakthroughs followed. Despite these investigations, Rebecca's case remains unsolved. Her family continues to hold on to hope that she is still alive, but law enforcement believes she was silenced, most likely on the morning of February 18th. The case has been compared to the disappearance of Madeleine McCann, due to its media coverage and the many unanswered questions surrounding what happened. Years later, Rebecca's disappearance remains one of Germany's most haunting mysteries. Her family's search for answers continues, as does the public's speculation about the case. Without new evidence or a confession, what truly happened to Rebecca may never be known. The FBI investigates missing Shelby Lind DWI, who suddenly vanished. The search for a missing Washington teenager has attracted national interest as the Federal Bureau of Investigation assumes control of the case. Shelby Lind DWI was reported as missing by her family last year after she did not come back from her trip to Mexico. Despite exhaustive endeavors, the quest to find Shelby has extended into its 14th month, causing her family to experience distress and ambiguity. Shelby Lind DWI's family, who reside in Washington, promptly notified the local police department about her disappearance in March 2023. Shelby, who was 17 years old at the time, had notified her family about her intention to travel to Mexico with a friend. Nevertheless, when she failed to uphold consistent communication and ultimately ceased all contact, her family became progressively worried and sought aid from police authorities. Given the intricate and international aspects of the case, the FBI has now taken charge of the investigation. Special Agent Steve Viano of the FBI's Seattle office delivered a report on the case, disclosing that the inquiry has successfully tracked Shelby's activities to Tijuana, where she is believed to have traveled by car. At the time of Shelby's disappearance, the department had released a travel advice cautioning about the dangers in the specific area where she was last seen. This has intensified fears among investigators and her family regarding her safety. The FBI is currently soliciting any information that may facilitate the retrieval of Shelby. A reward of up to $5,000 is being offered for information that leads to her discovery. If individuals possess any information pertaining to the case of Shelby Lind DWI, they are urged to reach out to their local FBI office, the nearest American embassy or consulate, or submit tips online. During the ongoing investigation, Shelby's family and law enforcement authorities are appealing to anyone who has information on her location to step forward with the aim of safely reuniting her with her family. United States soldiers find $500 million worth of gold bars and $600 million in cash in Iraq, but no one knows what happened to it. American troops, operating in a volatile region, stopped a convoy of vehicles for a routine inspection. Among the vehicles was a truck that, upon closer examination, was found to be carrying a cargo that stunned the soldiers. Stacked high in the truck's cargo bay were gold bars, each one gleaming in the harsh desert sun. The gold was quickly estimated to be worth over $500 million, a fortune that raised immediate suspicions about its origins and intended destination. The Central Command reported that soldiers discovered the bars during a routine traffic control examination of a Mercedes truck near the border. According to the command statement, the soldiers took 2 individuals into custody who were in the truck. Shortly after, United States troops discovered over $600 million in US currency inside boxes located near the royal complexes in Baghdad. Despite the high value of the gold and the implications of its discovery, what happened next is where the mystery deepens. According to some reports, the gold was transported to a secure location by the American military, where it was to be catalogued, documented, and eventually turned over to the appropriate authorities, whether the Iraqi government, the US Treasury, or another designated entity. However, as time went on, the trail of the gold seemed to vanish. Official records of the gold's seizure and subsequent handling are either incomplete or non-existent. Attempts to trace the gold have been met with silence or vague responses from those in positions of authority. The lack of transparency has led to widespread speculation about the gold's ultimate fate. The story of the seized gold bars and their disappearance has become emblematic of the broader uncertainties and complexities of the conflict that was happening during this time. In a conflict marked by shifting alliances, unclear objectives, and constant threats, the fate of the gold serves as a reminder of how easily things can slip through the cracks in such an environment. The incident also highlights the challenges of accountability and transparency during these conflicts. The mystery of Juan Tereso Ortiz. Juan Ortiz, age 25, went missing in Malaga on July 27, 2004. He was commuting from his residence to the carpentry workshop that he managed. Having been married for just a month, he was regarded as a diligent worker by his family, who also attested that he had no enemies. Upon departing from his residence, he informed his spouse, Raquel, of his intention to maybe spend the night in the carpenter workshop in order to complete some unfinished tasks. The final indication we possess regarding his whereabouts is the telephone conversation he had with his spouse, notifying her of his arrival at his workplace. He refrained from entering the shop, and his car remains undiscovered. According to his relatives, he established the carpenter shop several years ago, and it has been thriving. However, recently he appeared to be rather melancholic. At the moment of his disappearance, Juan was in a state of anticipation, as he was awaiting the receipt of payment for furniture that he had recently sold. One of the locations that was investigated was the Sierra de Cazorla, a spot that he frequently went to. Flyers featuring his portrait and description were disseminated across various sections of the natural park, yielding no outcomes. The statement of the waitress at a restaurant in Adra, who claimed to have seen Cerezo having lunch there a few days after his disappearance, did not provide any useful information. Following a 2-month period of his absence, the family had a glimmer of optimism, only to be ultimately let down by the unethical actions of an opportunist. Juan Bautista's brother-in-law started receiving phone calls from an individual who claimed to have knowledge of Juan Bautista's whereabouts and assured that he was in good condition. During the first interaction, a demand for a sum of 15,000 euros was made in return for additional information. However, it was later discovered that the stated account number did not actually exist. Subsequently, other calls were received from the same individual, however with an unmistakably menacing demeanor. He insisted that Juan Bautista's spouse personally surrender the funds. Nevertheless, the remarkable efforts of the Guardia Civil enabled them to ascertain the identity of the caller, despite his alteration of his phone number. The individual in question was a 22-year-old inhabitant of Vélez, Malaga, who clarified that the incident was intended as a jest. He faced charges of fabricating a crime, making threats, and using compulsion. As of right now, Juan's case remains a mystery. The Mysterious Medieval Prophecy by St. Malachy. The prophecy of St. Malachy has captivated religious scholars and prophecy enthusiasts for centuries, particularly because of its ominous claim that the final pope is near. If true, it could mean that the world is on the brink of a great upheaval. This prophecy, known as the Prophecy of the Popes, is a series of 112 cryptic Latin phrases, each believed to correspond to a pope from Celestine II in 1143 to an ultimate figure ominously referred to as Peter the Roman. With Pope Francis possibly fulfilling the last prophecy, many believe we are witnessing the final days of the papacy. The origins of the prophecy trace back to St. Malachy, a 12th century Irish bishop and saint. According to legend, he received a divine vision while visiting Rome in 1139, in which he foresaw the entire line of future popes. He recorded each pope's reign in symbolic mottos, which were later presented to Pope Innocent II before mysteriously vanishing for centuries. The prophecy resurfaced in 1595 when a Benedictine monk named Arnold Wyon published it in his book Lignum Vitae. Many researchers have pointed out that the descriptions of popes prior to the document's publication appear strikingly accurate, while the mottos following its rediscovery become more ambiguous. The most unsettling part of the prophecy concerns the final pope, referred to as Petrus Romanus, or Peter the Roman. According to the prophecy, this pope will lead the Catholic Church through an era of great tribulation. The text suggests that during his reign, the city of Rome, the city of 7 hills, will be destroyed, and divine judgment will be rendered. The prophecy implies that the Church will face immense persecution, corruption, and possibly even its downfall. Some believe Pope Francis, as the current leader of the Church, could be this final pope. Others speculate that his successor will be the one to fulfill the apocalyptic vision. The idea that Pope Francis fits the prophecy has fueled much debate. Although he does not bear the name Peter, some theorists argue that his humble, reformist approach and his focus on the poor align with the symbolic meaning behind Peter the Roman. Additionally, his Argentinian heritage ties back to Italy, as his parents were Italian immigrants, potentially linking him to the Roman aspect of the prophecy. With the Catholic Church facing internal division, scandals, and declining influence in many parts of the world, some see these struggles as signs of the Great Tribulation described in the prophecy. Despite its intriguing connections, the prophecy of the popes has been dismissed by many historians and theologians as a likely forgery. Some scholars argue that it was written in 1590 to influence the election of Pope Gregory XIV. They point out that the descriptions of popes before this time are highly specific, while those afterward become increasingly vague and open to interpretation. The Vatican itself has never endorsed the prophecy, and many within the Church consider it a pious legend rather than a legitimate revelation. Regardless of its authenticity, the prophecy continues to captivate those who believe in its predictions. Whether it is a true foretelling of the end times or merely a historical curiosity, its impact on discussions about the future of the Catholic Church remains profound. If Pope Francis or his successor truly is the final pope, the world could be on the verge of an unprecedented transformation. Until then, the mystery of St. Malachy's prophecy endures, leaving many to wonder whether the Catholic Church is approaching its final chapter. The mysterious Beale ciphers. The Beale ciphers remain one of the greatest mysteries in American cryptography, sparking intrigue and treasure hunts for over a century. The story revolves around 3 encrypted messages, one of which is said to reveal the location of a buried treasure worth millions of dollars in gold, silver, and jewels. As of today, only one of the 3 ciphers has been decoded, while the other 2 remain unsolved, adding to the enduring mystery. The legend of the Beale ciphers began with an 1885 pamphlet titled The Beale Papers, which detailed an extraordinary tale of hidden treasure. According to the pamphlet, a man named Thomas J. Beale and his group of treasure hunters discovered a vast fortune while exploring the American West in the early 19th century. Concerned about protecting their wealth, Beale decided to bury the treasure in a secret location in Bedford County, Virginia. To ensure the gold, silver, and jewels could eventually be retrieved, Beale created 3 encrypted messages. These ciphers allegedly contained information about the exact location of the treasure, the inventory of the hoard, and the identities of the rightful heirs. Before disappearing without a trace, Beale entrusted a locked iron box containing the encrypted messages to a local innkeeper named Robert Morris in 1822. Beale promised Morris that he or someone from his party would return the box, but years passed without any sign of him. After waiting for 23 years, Morris finally opened the box and discovered the mysterious ciphers, but he was unable to decode them. Before his death, he handed the messages over to an anonymous friend, who then spent 2 decades attempting to crack the codes. The friend eventually managed to decipher the second cipher by using the Declaration of Independence as a key. This message detailed the vast wealth hidden underground, listing thousands of pounds of gold and silver along with an assortment of jewels. However, the exact location remained unknown, as the first and third ciphers, the ones holding the key to the treasure's whereabouts and the names of the rightful claimants, remained undeciphered. Realizing he could not solve the puzzle, the friend decided to share the story with the public and published the Beale Papers in the 1880s. Since then, cryptographers, treasure hunters, and amateur codebreakers have tried their luck at solving the Beale ciphers, but no one has definitively cracked the remaining codes. Some believe the entire story is an elaborate hoax, possibly created by the anonymous friend or the publisher of the Beale Papers as a means to profit from selling pamphlets. Skeptics argue that the writing style of the pamphlet does not match the time period in which Beale supposedly lived, and that no historical records confirm Beale's existence or his journey. Despite these doubts, treasure hunters have searched Bedford County for years, digging through caves, forests, and fields in the hopes of uncovering the fortune. Some have even used modern cryptographic techniques and computers to try and break the remaining ciphers, but no one has succeeded in unlocking their secrets. The Beale ciphers continue to captivate those fascinated by hidden treasures and unsolved mysteries. Whether the story is real or an elaborate myth, the idea of a buried fortune waiting to be discovered has fueled the imaginations of countless adventurers. Until the first and third ciphers are deciphered, the mystery of the Beale treasure remains an unsolved mystery, leaving many to wonder whether a massive hoard of gold and jewels still lies hidden beneath the Virginia soil. The disappearance of Orlando Longmire. As of today, very little is known about Orlando Longmire's mysterious disappearance. Orlando Longmire, a 62-year-old individual, was reported missing in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, on March 30th, 2022. Detailed investigation reveals that he was last seen on March 22nd after departing from his residence while carrying his required medications. Orlando Longmire, a resident of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, came into this world on June 15th, 1959. On the day of March 22nd, 2022, Orlando departed from his residence while carrying his necessary prescription medication containers. However, from that moment onwards, his family has not had any sight or knowledge of his whereabouts. On the evening of March 30th, 2022, Orlando was sighted for the final time at approximately 5 in the vicinity of North 27th Street in Philadelphia. Orlando's whereabouts remain unknown, as there have been no sightings or any communication from him recently. There is a notable familiarity attached to his presence in the vicinity of Fox Street and Hunting Park Avenue. The precise whereabouts of Orlando Longmire and the details surrounding his vanishing continue to be a mystery, leaving the investigation into his case unresolved. The disappearance of Melissa Lemoine. Melissa Lemoine, a 39-year-old woman, went missing in Tampa, Florida on July 14, 2023. The circumstances surrounding her disappearance are quite concerning, as she vanished soon after being dropped off at the Frontier Travel Park to meet an individual she had connected with online. During the period when Melissa went missing, she resided in Lutz, Florida, a town situated approximately 15 miles away from Tampa. Lutz, a peaceful community with its distinct charm, provided a serene backdrop. In the scorching afternoon of July 14, 2023, a close relative transported Melissa to the sprawling and bustling Frontier Travel Park, situated conveniently on Nebraska Avenue in the vibrant city of Tampa, Florida. Melissa had made plans to meet an unfamiliar person whom she had been engaging with on Facebook. The purpose of this meeting was to finally meet face-to-face and get to know each other better. After leaving her last known location, Melissa unfortunately never reached her destination, and there has been no communication or information about her whereabouts since. When she did not come back home, her family took the initiative to report her as missing to the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office, expressing their concern and seeking assistance in locating her whereabouts. The current whereabouts of Melissa Lemoine, along with the details surrounding her disappearance, continue to be shrouded in mystery. Despite extensive efforts to find her, the case remains unresolved. The mystery of David Holtz. Over 250,000 individuals are reported missing every year, with estimates of actual missing persons cases that are left unreported, pushing that total to more than an expected 300,000 cases annually. With that many reports, it is no wonder that a vast majority of these cases are left unsolved. However, every now and then there are a series of missing cases that emerge that are so peculiar they become the subject of internet theories and impossible to explain theories. Known as the Missing 411, there appears to be a substantial number of missing persons cases relating to the disappearances of individuals from national parks. In fact, many of these cases are believed to not be investigated too deeply, as some form of supernatural or paranormal cover-up takes place in these undisturbed locations. The Sequoia National Park, nestled just south of the renowned Yosemite National Park, boasts breathtaking views of pristine wilderness that, despite its splendor, is often overshadowed by its more popular neighbor. With its magnificent peaks made of predominantly granite, including the towering Mount Whitney, the tallest mountain in the contiguous United States, at a staggering elevation of 14,500 feet, Sequoia National Park holds a mesmerizing allure for adventurers seeking unspoiled natural beauty. Unfortunately for one family, this beauty would be tainted by one of the most tragic events to have occurred in the park during this time. According to the Missing Persons Report, on the 13th of July, back in 1971, a young 9-year-old by the name of David Holtz would suddenly vanish while walking with his family through the Sequoia National Park, leaving behind a haunting mystery for investigators to uncover. Colonel Edward Holtz, a distinguished commanding officer from the Los Angeles Armed Forces Examining and Instruction Center, embarked on a memorable camping and fishing trip with his 3 sons in this picturesque setting. Choosing the idyllic Dorst Creek campground, a location in close proximity to the popular Kings Canyon Visitors Center, and a mere 3 miles from the awe-inspiring giant General Sherman tree, considered to be the tallest tree in the world, the Holtz family eagerly set out to establish their camp and indulge in their shared passion for fishing. Unfortunately, as the Holtz family returned from their fishing excursion in Dorst Creek, David became separated from his brother Mike after expressing his desire to take a different path. According to Mike, his brother David had been standing behind him a few feet as they talked and walked down the path following their father. Several times as they walked back to their campground together, David pleaded with Mike if they could go together to investigate other pathways and areas away from the main hiking trail. Worried for his brother's safety, Mike would tell David not to step away from the trail and to stay within sight of him as they continued back to the campground. Mike would later tell investigators that as the two brothers were close to the campground, Mike said something to David, but David didn't reply, causing Mike to turn around and realize that David was nowhere nearby. While David's father and brother safely reached the campsite, their hearts sank as they realized David was nowhere to be found. Frantic shouts echoed through the wilderness as they immediately turned back and followed the hiking trail to where they had come from while calling out to 9-year-old David. The anxious group tirelessly scoured the area where David was last seen, but their calls were met with an eerie silence. The newspapers of the time reported Colonel Edward Holtz's heart-wrenching statement that his son was mentally challenged, which further compounded the already challenging search efforts. Determined to leave no stone unturned, the National Park Service, local sheriffs, and dedicated armed forces personnel from Hamilton Air Force Base rallied together to comb through the vast expanses of Sequoia National Park in a valiant attempt to locate David. Days turned into a week as the search persisted, yielding no sign of David. However, a glimmer of hope emerged on the 8th day when a searcher, en route to the Dorst Creek campground, stumbled upon a small tackle box resting on the side of the road. The discovery sent a mix of encouragement and concern through the search party. Colonel Holtz identified the tackle box as belonging to David, intensifying the belief that it was a tangible clue in close proximity to the area he disappeared. The peculiar nature of its placement, along a road traversed daily during the search, seemed almost like a cryptic message, adding an air of mystery to an already perplexing ordeal. Refusing to surrender hope, search parties persisted in scouring the mountainous terrain, their determination unwavering. Curiously, the airborne searches conducted over the area failed to spot David's bright red and orange shirt, the very garment he had been wearing when he vanished. Despite their exhaustive efforts, the formal search for David Holtz was reluctantly concluded after 2 weeks of relentless pursuit. Nevertheless, Colonel Edward Holtz, driven by unwavering paternal love, could not bear to abandon the quest to find his beloved son. On July 31st, 18 days after David's disappearance, accompanied by a loyal friend, Edward Holtz ventured into an elevated region known as Colony Meadows, situated an estimated 8,000 feet above the point where David had last been seen. Amidst the pristine beauty of this lush, verdant meadow, adorned with majestic giant sequoias, a heartbreaking discovery unfolded. Edward and his companion stumbled upon David Holtz, but they were too late. Regrettably, the available records fail to provide any details regarding the condition of David and what caused him to pass away. And while the Park Service initially attributed his demise to exposure and exhaustion, it is essential to note that no autopsy had been conducted at that time. To unravel the enigma of how David ended up in Colony Meadows from Dorst Creek is a riveting aspect of this tragic tale. If we are to embrace the belief that David's tackle box was indeed discovered along the road leading to Dorst Creek campground, in a direction completely opposite to where he was eventually found, it implies that David, who was only 9 at the time, ventured further east, tracing the path upstream of the creek, ultimately leading him towards the captivating meadow directly through the path of active search and rescue volunteers. It appears that David, rather than retracing his steps along the road back to the campground, or even venturing towards the nearby major highway, embarked on a path that led him below Colony Meadows. There, he encountered a treacherously steep and rock-faced mountainside, an imposing obstacle that seemingly rose vertically for 700 to 900 feet, depending on the precise route he took, a height and steepness that would have been impossible for even experienced climbers to have pursued, and completely unfathomable for such a young individual. Adding another layer of intrigue to this haunting tale, it is disheartening to note that the case file, which could potentially shed further light on the search for David, has been inexplicably destroyed. After the Sequoia National Park was petitioned with a Freedom of Information Act to force the release of any information the park had gathered on the David Holtz case, the National Park officials would respond to the query with the claim that all information surrounding Holtz had been recently destroyed. While the fate of David remains shrouded in uncertainty, his story resonates deeply with the countless other missing persons cases that have plagued communities worldwide. The mystery of Charles C. Morgan. In the early morning hours of March 22, 1977, Charles Morgan, an escrow agent residing in Phoenix, Arizona, mysteriously disappeared after leaving his home. However, after an agonizing 3 days, he finally returned to his wife, Ruth, with an unsettling revelation. It was around 2 in the morning when he made his way back, with noticeable restraints adorning his body, a plastic handcuff encircling one ankle and handcuffs tightly securing his hands. Unable to vocalize his distress, Charles pointed urgently to his throat, silently indicating his inability to speak. Recognizing his communication limitations, Ruth promptly offered him a pen and paper, to which he scribbled a haunting message. He had been subjected to the ingestion of a potent hallucinogenic medication that could potentially ravage his delicate nervous system. Fearful for her husband's well-being, Ruth expressed her desire to involve the authorities or seek medical attention. However, Charles, aware of the risks involved, implored her not to take any action that could jeopardize the safety of their family. During the time that Ruth cared for him and aided his recovery, he revealed a shocking revelation. He had been employed as a covert operative, working undercover for the U.S. Treasury Department for a period spanning 2 to 3 years. However, he did not elaborate further, mentioning only that his captors had forcibly taken away his Treasury identification. Disturbingly, 2 months subsequent to his initial disappearance, he once again vanished without a trace. It was after a hiatus of 9 days that Ruth found herself at the receiving end of an enigmatic phone call from a mysterious woman who conveyed the cryptic message, "Chuck is all right," and abruptly terminated the call. The inexplicable reference to Ecclesiastes 12, 1-8, added another layer of intrigue to an already perplexing situation. 2 days elapsed following the enigmatic phone call, precisely on June 18th, when Charles was finally discovered lifeless. The resting place lay 40 miles to the west of Tucson, adjacent to his abandoned vehicle. The discovery revealed that Charles had met a tragic fate, having suffered a pistol wound to the back of his head, inflicted by none other than his own firearm. What further perplexed investigators was the fact that he was found wearing a bulletproof vest, adorned with a belt buckle cunningly concealing a hidden knife and a holster that once housed his weapon. The intriguing twist in this already enigmatic tale unfolded with the presence of a pair of sunglasses at the scene, conspicuously not belonging to the deceased. As the investigation delved deeper, Charles's car became the focal point of scrutiny. By meticulously combing through its contents, authorities unearthed an assortment of weaponry and a substantial stockpile of ammunition, leaving little doubt as to his preparedness for unforeseen circumstances. However, the perplexities did not end there. The car itself had undergone modifications, ingeniously allowing it to be unlocked from the fender. This detail not only added to the mystique surrounding Charles's demise, but also hinted at a deliberate attempt to obfuscate his intentions or perhaps protect valuable possessions. Adding to the bizarre chain of events, a startling discovery was made on the rear seat of the vehicle, a tooth belonging to Morgan, neatly wrapped in a white handkerchief. The inexplicable nature of this find left investigators puzzled, as it presented more questions than answers. In a twist that seemed to border on the surreal, a peculiar item was also discovered, an elusive $2 bill. On its surface, several Spanish surnames were scrawled, capturing the attention of those engaged in the investigation. Attached to the bill was a meticulously pinned map of the border area, encompassing the regions between Tucson and Mexico, specifically leading to Robles Junction and Felicity. Notoriously known for their illicit activities during that era, these towns held a reputation for smuggling. Adding to the enigma were the words Ecclesiastes 12 etched above the surnames, accompanied by an arrow that pointed towards specific digits in the bill's serial number, cunningly highlighting the numbers 1 and 8. According to the medical examiners, Charles Morgan was reportedly deceased for a duration of approximately 12 hours prior to being discovered. It is particularly peculiar that no fingerprints were detected at the crime scene, not even on the firearm. However, gunpowder residue and traces were found on Morgan's hands. Due to these findings, the sheriff's department concluded that the cause of his passing was self-inflicted, thus closing the investigation into the Charles C. Morgan case. The absence of fingerprints on the scene, especially on the pistol, raises further questions about the circumstances surrounding Morgan's demise. The presence of gunpowder and residue on his hands provides a significant clue. Ruth Morgan adamantly refuted the theory and firmly maintains the belief that her late husband was not a victim of natural causes, but rather met with foul play. The mysterious disappearance of Bradley Strakener. Bradley Strakener, a 30-year-old individual, went missing on October 30, 2019, in Leesville, Louisiana. This incident occurred when he left his residence with the purpose of returning a vehicle to his girlfriend. Bradley Strakener, a distinguished individual, came into this world on the 29th of July, 1989. Being a proud member of the Four Winds tribe, he holds a significant position within the esteemed Louisiana Cherokee Confederacy. He has a deep fondness for nature and possesses exceptional skills in navigating the wilderness. His family and friends find it highly unusual that he has gone missing without maintaining any form of communication with them. On the 30th of October, in the year 2019, Bradley Strakener found himself in the charming and welcoming town of Sandy Hill. At approximately 1:45 in the afternoon, he departed from the apartment he cohabited with his roommate, embarking on a journey to return his girlfriend's car, which happened to be located around 10 miles away. Bradley, unfortunately, never arrived at his intended location and has remained completely unreachable ever since. On the morning of October 31st, 2019, precisely at 6:30 in the morning, the vehicle in which Bradley was last sighted was discovered deserted in close proximity to a hunting property that had been leased. This property is situated on Bundix Road, near Highway 10, at a distance of approximately 2 miles from the location where Bradley was last observed. Upon discovery, the vehicle was located in an unlocked state, and to further exacerbate the situation, the keys were left carelessly on the passenger seat. Despite this alarming discovery, authorities were perplexed to find an absence of any indications or traces of a struggle. Numerous diligent searches were extensively carried out across the designated vicinity, yet regrettably, no discernible traces or indications pertaining to his current location were unearthed. In a significant development, Bradley's mother, Toni, has assumed the prestigious role of Louisiana Director within Community United Effort, which is also known as the Esteemed Center for Missing Persons. In the month of May in the year 2022, the organization undertook an extensive search operation in the Sandy Hills region with the aim of locating Bradley. To aid in this search, highly trained cadaver dogs were employed, their expert noses meticulously scouring the area in hopes of finding any clues. The disappearance of Bradley is currently under investigation by authorities, who believe that foul play may be involved. Despite their suspicions, no specific individuals or persons of interest have been identified as potential suspects. Despite ongoing efforts, his case remains unresolved. The disappearance of Lester Whitmire. Lester Whitmire, a 65-year-old individual, was last observed on June 18, 2021, in the vicinity of Oak Ridge, Oregon. An intriguing detail about his disappearance is that he mentioned his intention to visit the McCready Hot Springs, which subsequently led to his vanishing. Lester Whitmire's last known sighting occurred on June 18, 2021, as confirmed by a family member. During that period, he resided in the Oak Ridge region of Oregon. According to his statement, Whitmire declared his intention to visit the McCready Hot Springs. On July 2, 2021, his disappearance was formally documented to the Lane County Sheriff's Office. An official report was filed expressing concern over his whereabouts. Lester's automobile, along with his possessions securely stored within, was discovered in the vast expanse of the Willamette National Forest, positioned to the east of the town of Oak Ridge. The search and rescue team of Lane County Sheriff meticulously combed through the vicinity in which his vehicle was discovered, painstakingly searching for any traces or hints that could lead them to his exact location. Despite their extensive efforts, no supplementary clues or information regarding his whereabouts were uncovered. Lester is known to have connections with the Redmond area, but there is limited information regarding his case. The whereabouts of Lester Whitmire, along with the details surrounding his vanishing, continue to be a mystery that has yet to be unraveled. His case is categorized as a missing persons investigation and has remained unsolved, leaving many unanswered questions. The mysterious disappearance of Erica Frasier. Erica Frasier, a 17-year-old girl, went missing in Brooksville, Kentucky on October 21, 1997. This unfortunate event took place when she was heading home after enjoying a night out with her friends. Erica Frasier, a Kentucky native, came into this world on May 6, 1980, to her loving parents, Maggie Doherty and Kevin Frasier. In 1997, Erica found herself in her final year of high school at Bracken County High School. With her sights set on a future in accounting, she had already made plans to attend Northern Kentucky University upon graduating. Balancing her studies and ambitions, Erica also dedicated her time to working part-time at Carota's Pizza, a popular local pizza joint nestled in the heart of Augusta. In the evening of October 21, 1997, Erica was spotted socializing with her companions near the Video N Tan establishment in Brooksville, Kentucky. This interaction occurred between the hours of 9 and 10 in the evening. Erica Frasier, a young woman who set out from her home, tragically never made it back. Erica's absence was brought to the attention of the Bracken County Sheriff's Office by her concerned mother as she failed to make it back home. On the 22nd of October in the year 1997, Erica's car, which was a 1988 Pontiac Bonneville, was discovered unlocked and deserted in a field situated off Frunks Lane, right on the outskirts of Brooksville. During the investigation, law enforcement discovered that Erica's possessions, including her purse, wallet, checkbook, and money, were located inside her vehicle. However, the keys to the car were later found in a field across the road. Interestingly, upon examining the car, the police did not find any fingerprints, foreign hairs, or indications of any suspicious activity or wrongdoing. There is currently no evidence to suggest that Erica voluntarily departed on her own accord, and it should be noted that she did not collect the $100 paycheck that was awaiting her at Carota's Pizza. She chose not to share her intentions of embarking on a journey with her circle of friends, and there were no previous instances of her spontaneously leaving without notice. It is worth noting that she consistently demonstrated commendable academic performance, and there were no discernible signs of distress or turmoil in her personal life. On October 21, 1997, Erica Lee Frasier vanished under mysterious circumstances. She was last spotted in her vehicle, accompanied by Shane M. Simcox, a 20-year-old individual whom she had only known for less than 12 months. This puzzling disappearance raises numerous questions about the nature of their relationship. In a remarkably detailed account provided to the police, Simcox explained that he had been engaging in an evening of socializing with his companions, enjoying a series of visits to various bars. As the night progressed, and a moderate amount of alcohol had been consumed, Simcox found himself situated on a street corner in Brooksville, Kentucky. Based on Simcox's account, Erica extended an invitation to him to accompany her on a sightseeing trip around the city. This invitation was extended after one of Erica's friends left the vehicle, providing an opportunity for them to spend some quality time together. Their private ride lasted somewhere between 10 to 15 minutes, allowing them to engage in meaningful conversation and enjoy each other's company. The disappearance of Margaret Mary Cola. On the 20th of February, back in 2011, a 53-year-old woman by the name of Margaret Cola would suddenly vanish after planning a short daytime visit to the Cummins Creek Wilderness. Although investigators originally thought that Margaret's case was that of an inexperienced hiker traveling too deep within the national park forest, investigators would soon realize that Margaret Cola would frequently travel to the Cummins Creek Wilderness to forage for wild mushrooms and truffles. According to Margaret's friend, Mrs. Cola had become quite familiar with the region and would often take weekly trips to the area with her 5-year-old Labrador Border Collie mix, named Roscoe. Growing up in the seaside city of Waldport, Oregon, Margaret Cola had become highly experienced with the outdoors, Cummins Creek Wilderness, and the surrounding trails, and was known by her friends and family as having been an avid hiker. Yet, regardless of her vast amount of wilderness experience and her many safety precautions, Margaret Cola would seemingly vanish with no trace of her left behind. The search for Margaret would begin on the day of her disappearance, after her friend contacted the local sheriff's department and claimed that she was unable to make contact with Mrs. Cola at their scheduled time. Due to her frequently traveling alone, Margaret was worried that if she did not take the necessary precautions, she could end up injured and stranded out in the national park without anyone knowing she was gone. It was for this very reason that Margaret told her friend prior to her trip that she was planning on taking Roscoe for a walk near the Cape Perpetua area. Although the last time Margaret had been seen was on the 19th of February, after getting an expected time frame of Margaret's itinerary from her friend, detectives were able to put an accurate time to when Margaret Cola had arrived in the area, believed to have been during the early morning. Within only 8 hours of her disappearance, the Lane and Lincoln County Sheriff's Department, alongside the United States Forest Service and the Oregon State Police, would begin their search and rescue efforts for Margaret and Roscoe. Oddly enough, after scouring several parking lots and common stops, the search and rescue teams were unable to locate Margaret Cola's vehicle. Given the fact that the investigators were unsure which trail Margaret Cola had followed, it made it increasingly difficult for search and rescue teams to efficiently check a tighter radius, forcing them to expand their search to a much larger area. Local volunteer groups had spent the better part of the first 2 days walking up and down the Cape Perpetua area, but were unable to find any tracks or signs of Margaret Cola having visited anywhere in the region. With the lack of any sign of Margaret's vehicle or equipment anywhere near the region, investigators started to wonder whether or not the missing hiker was even within the park. For this reason, in conjunction with the search and rescue efforts, the local sheriff's department would keep out a missing persons file for any information relating to Margaret's disappearance, worried that she could have been the victim of foul play or could have gotten into a car accident in an isolated area. It would be due to these suspicions that the search and rescue efforts were temporarily reduced over the course of about 2 weeks. It would not be until the 3rd of March that proof of Margaret having arrived in the park was found. According to the United States Forest Service, one of the Forest Service law enforcement officers had found Margaret's van on the side of Forest Service Road in the Cummins Ridge Trail area. The Cummins Ridge Road was a far deeper major pathway that was only accessible after driving south through an area known as Neptune State Scenic Viewpoint, past a coastal area named the Devil's Churn due to its history of supernatural sightings. Inexperienced hikers would not have been able to see that the small trail opens up into a much larger pathway, and so investigators were certain that Margaret must have visited the area several times in the past to know exactly how much room there would be for her vehicle. The vehicle itself was completely unoccupied, and after having been searched, a park receipt would be located that would confirm that Margaret Cola had reached the park sometime on the 20th of February. Immediately after the vehicle was discovered by the United States Forest Service law enforcement officer, a massive search would be conducted in the area for a 10-mile radius. Unfortunately, despite more than 50 volunteers involved in the search, no sign of Margaret or her dog Roscoe was uncovered. On the following day, a team of bloodhounds were brought to the abandoned vehicle to help find a trackable scent. However, due to the tremendous gap in time from Margaret's initial disappearance and the discovery of her vehicle, the experienced canine teams were unable to locate a scent they could track. Oddly enough, on the 5th of March, more than 2 weeks since Margaret had disappeared, roughly 2.2 miles south of where Margaret's abandoned vehicle was located, local search and rescue volunteers would find Roscoe casually walking along the area of 10 Mile Creek. Once investigators took a closer look at Roscoe, they were surprised to find that the dog appeared to have been in perfect health. Deputies with the Lincoln County Sheriff's Office would make several attempts to get Roscoe to lead them to where Margaret may have been, but the dog seemed too playful and easily distracted, making it impossible for search and rescuers to get the dog to lead them back to Margaret. To this day, no sign of Margaret Cola has even been uncovered. Oddly enough, across many of the bizarre missing 411 disappearances, it is commonly reported that during a sudden vanishing, hikers who traveled with a dog will often have their canines show up several days after their disappearance, but with no sign of the hiker ever being uncovered. Even more peculiar, the returning canines will often seem to be in perfect condition, regardless of the weather conditions or the number of days missing, as if no time had passed for them in the interim.